Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to another episode of Addicted to Gear, the live edition, Sunday. Today is show number 28, if I'm not mistaken. I hope everybody's doing well and you guys can hear me okay. If you can't, let me know, but I think we got the sound under control. Father's Day. I want to wish everyone a happy Father's Day out there. If you're lucky enough to be a dad like I am, three times actually, you know how important this day is, not just for you, but obviously for your dad, my dad. I'm lucky enough to have my dad around. He's not a spring chicken anymore, but as every year goes by, I think we appreciate him even more. I'm gonna call him later on and wish him a happy Father's Day as well. I hope you guys are gonna be doing that as well because you know your dads they're very important men in your lives. Um, of course, everyone is gonna be sort of you know trying to take advantage of Father's Day, taking it easy. It's a beautiful Sunday, glorious warm day here. We're even having a little bit of a heat wave. The last couple of days have been extremely hot, but I'm not complaining. And if you have an opportunity to spend it with your dad, of course, after this event, or maybe spend it with your dad watching this event, that would be really cool and a great way to spend Father's Day. Of course, Father's Day pales in comparison to Mother's Day, right? Let's be honest, guys. It's all about the moms. The moms are really the crusaders in all of this and really do a lot. At least my wife is, a saint, and I appreciate her every day. And it's a great opportunity to say thanks to the moms as well. Um, so let me know what you guys are doing for Father's Day today. Are you guys, have any of you gotten spoiled on Father's Day? Maybe there's some cool gear coming your way as a Father's Day gift. Or maybe you guys decided to buy yourself something cool for Father's Day, just to splurge a little bit. I want to remind everyone, of course, that if you want to support the channel, and there's always great swag available at the bottom of the videos that I post, and a great opportunity to get some swag for you, maybe as a Father's Day gift, you know, or if your father plays music and is addicted to gear like we are, maybe you could get him a little Father's Day gift. There's shirts and mugs and stickers, and they come in all kinds of colors and sizes. So feel free to grab one if you're interested, and indirectly support the channel as well. So let me take an opportunity to say good morning to the early risers in the house. Maybe some of you are not able to attend today because of Father's Day, and you're maybe already spending it with your fathers, barbecuing, or whatever it is that you're planning on doing with your dads today. That's okay. I don't expect a huge turnout today because of that, but I figured Sunday, and definitely want to have a show. So let me say good morning. So Paul's in the house. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Jack. Wayne is here too. Good morning, Wayne. Cool Tunes Made Easy. Nice to see you in the house as well. If you haven't already said hello to everyone, just take an opportunity and just say hi, leave a little comment so I know that you guys are there and watching. Christian's in the house as well. Good morning, Christian. The Nye is here also. Good morning. Good morning to you, Victor, Keith, Al, Vox Guitars Rock. We got a good group of guys here already, so that's really cool. So if you haven't already seen my poll question, as well as the question of the day, I repeated it at the top of the chat window this morning. And so the question of the day is, would you consider trading or selling an expensive guitar for a couple of less expensive ones? So usually it's the other way around, right? Usually you get rid of the cheaper gear to make room for the more expensive stuff. But the question today really is the opposite. Is like, if you have an expensive guitar, would you consider selling it if you know that you can get maybe 3 or 4 less expensive guitars? The reason I'm asking that is because the more I speak to friends of mine, musicians out there and stuff, after a while, you accumulate gear and you accumulate stuff that's not always cheap, right? You might, save your money and end up buying that guitar that you want to have that costs quite a few dollars. And at the end of the day, maybe you find that you're not enjoying it as much as you thought you would, or maybe there's that psychological barrier where you don't want to take the guitar out because you don't want to damage it and it's in the case most of the time. Like, I know I do that. And I'm sure other people do that as well. So at that point, you ask yourself, do I keep the guitar? Or would I rather spend, that money that I could get by selling or trading that guitar and get a couple of less expensive guitars? I'm not saying necessarily like, beaters or garage sale guitars, but, mid-level guitars that you can buy or trade and maybe get a lot more entertainment and enjoyment out of them. So, I have a guitar like that I'm considering. It's always in the back of my mind because I don't play it much. There's actually a couple of them. So, I'm not the type of guy that I get too emotionally attached to the instruments. There are a few that I really enjoy, and they're not necessarily the most expensive ones. And if the right opportunity came about and I really wanted to get some gear, I would consider doing that. So I know my answer to the question would be yeah. Because things always shift, right? What you like a lot today might not necessarily be the same taste or flavor that you have for that type of sound or instrument in the future. So I'm curious to see what you guys think about that. So I'm going to see what the comments were and see what you guys think about. So Wayne says that I think he originally misread my question because at first his answer was that, easy answer, hell yes, when you've got about 45 cheap rebuilds lying around, that's a no-brainer, always room for quality in the herd. So he misunderstood, but the question was actually not that. The question was, if you have an expensive guitar, would you get a cheaper guitar? And so that's the $1,000,000 question, right? So Cool Tunes Made Easy says, Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to you. So he actually sold 3 cheap guitars to buy an expensive guitar. Again, that's not the question. The question is the opposite. Would you sell that expensive guitar or an expensive guitar to get less expensive guitars? That's not always as obvious in terms of a response. Paul says that he already bought the cheaper guitars and he's doing it backwards. So he wants to sell a Fender custom shop, but the cheapest used is $3,200 USD. I only get offers for just over 2,000. And that was before the COVID-19. So that's a good observation. Actually, do you feel, as a sideline question, do you guys feel that it's harder to sell gear right now? I think that there's always a market for used gear. I just feel that there's also a glass ceiling when it comes to expensive gear. A lot of people are not, when it comes to gear or instruments above $2,000, there seems to be like that psychological block there, and a lot of people are not willing to go above that unless it's like super, super, like something really special, So I'm thinking maybe that's part of the reason why Paul's having a harder time selling his custom shop. And of course, COVID, it doesn't help. People are tight on cash right now, and they're not quite sure what's going to happen with their jobs, how fast the economy is going to pick up and whatnot. So I think they're not necessarily looking to buy frivolous items, which sometimes people consider guitars, a want, not a need. So I get that. So Cool Tunes Made Easy says that And after I bought the expensive, I still bought my Martin D28 with nothing to sell. Well, you're a lucky man if you have, liquid cash lying around that you can use to take advantage of getting these guitars. I haven't really purchased many guitars recently. I'm still enjoying the ones that I have, and you know what they say. It's what's the old saying? Want what you have, not the other way around. Or basically, I'm trying to enjoy what I already have, but there's always new things that come about, as you saw in the case with the amp that I picked up recently, that I'm enjoying quite a bit right now. So I'm still getting tempted. Uh, Cool Tunes Made Easy says, question is if you can sell your wife and buy a cheap guitar. That's not nice. That's not nice. I know you're just kidding. I know you appreciate your wife. So Christian says that he sold 3 lower level guitars to buy a real Les Paul. Again, it's not the question. I know a lot of people do stuff like that. I mean, I've done that in the past too. You sell off a couple of older, less expensive guitars, save up for the big one. But the question is the other way around. So I want to hear you guys pipe in. And maybe none of you have done it. Maybe you guys don't consider doing that. Who else is in the house? Al's in the house this morning. And Al says, buying myself a CME Spec 60th anniversary 1959 Les Paul Green Lemon. Wow. Okay, so did you sell off some gear? Or is that one of your bucket list guitars? Maybe it's something that you've wanted to get over time. I don't really have a bucket list guitar right now. It's funny because I do appreciate the ones I already have, and the good news is for those of you who don't have many guitars, and you have a couple. The good news is that after all the craziness, and you end up buying a lot of guitars, selling a lot of guitars, your collection slowly grows. I find that eventually things start to slow down a little bit because you have a lot of different instruments that fill in the gaps. You're not tempted as much by gear because a lot of the stuff that you have is able to satisfy whatever sound requirement you have. So you're not as tempted. So the gas kind of slows down, but it never really goes away, in my opinion. Hey Victor, happy Father's Day to you too. I hope as if you're a dad. How many of you out there are actually dads? Raise your hands. Let me know how many dads we're talking to today. Maybe you guys are a little bit younger than I am and are not dads yet. So just write dad or not in your comments so I know which ones of you are actually dads today. Hey Philip, nice to see you. Good morning. So Cool Tunes Made It Easy. His comment says that he had the cheaper guitars already, so he won't go back anymore. So he's gotten to that plateau now where he I guess he appreciates the difference between the cheaper guitars and the more expensive guitars. And I think sometimes when you get that taste of better quality instruments, it is indeed hard to go back. But on the other hand, my opinion is that sometimes I do appreciate the less expensive guitars sometimes. Maybe they're not as polished or as refined as some of the more expensive guitars, but if you can work on your guitars and if you like to mod your instruments like I do, I find that you can get them to play just as good and sound just as good with very little effort. And at the end of the day, you could actually enjoy those guitars a heck of a lot and not have that the idea of like, oh man, the guitar is going to get stolen or it's going to get damaged or chipped or scratched. I got to worry about it and take care of it. So for me, that's kind of a relief. I kind of like that. And then if something does happen to that guitar, no, there's not a big deal. You can replace it. So Rich says, I would get rid of an expensive guitar for a couple cheaper ones so I could keep my gas problem going. Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. I like to play around with different sounds, different configurations, and whatnot. So, hey, Fat Philosopher, how's it going? Thank you for joining in. So, Vox Guitars Rock says it would depend on the cheaper guitars. I mostly own cheaper guitars with the exception of my Gibson Les Paul. Yeah, I think my collection now is probably almost 50-50, less expensive to higher quality guitars. But again, like I said many times, I tend to play a couple of guitars the most, and they're not necessarily the most expensive ones in my case. Fat Philosopher sold one, his one and only Fender, made 250 bucks profit. Well, if you have that profit in your pocket, are you going to put it towards your guitar fund? Do you guys have a guitar fund or an instrument fund or gear fund? I know I do. I definitely do. I tend to have like whenever I sell gear, that money goes towards that fund, stays there, and at the end of the day, if there's something that comes up suddenly, like the Blackstar amp that I just picked up not too long ago, comes out of that fund. So the money basically just gets recycled. You know what I mean? You get to enjoy the stuff and then eventually put it towards something else. Hey, Nick in the States is here with us. Hey, Nick, how's it going? Happy Father's Day, man. He says he loves his cheap guitars. I love my expensive guitars too. I've sold some nicer Fenders to buy a few varied, less expensive guitars. Yeah, so I'm not the only one that's considered doing that or has done that in the past. The thing is, the value of the guitars, at least the more expensive ones, tend to go up. Not as fast as we would like it to, but they do definitely go up. I know I've picked up a few used guitars in the $500-600 range, and now they're probably worth over 1,000. And that's just because people have caught on to the quality and they've become a little bit more sought after. So that's a good thing for me, but I don't necessarily want to sell them now. I like those guitars a lot and I do enjoy playing them. So I don't necessarily want to sell them. The same goes for the PRS SE Zach Myers guitar that I bought. I mean, I bought it used. I think I paid it, I forget now, it was like maybe 550 or something like that. It was in the $500 range. The guitar brand new is over 1,000 right now. So I'm sure if I sell that guitar, I can definitely sell it probably about seven to $800 used. It's in great condition. I even upgraded the pickups. Sounds great, plays fantastic, but I don't want to sell it. So sometimes, flipping guitars is a good idea just to be able to go upwards. But again, a lot of people are not doing that to go downwards and just having more guitars. Vox Guitars Rock says he has a VM70 Squire and I wouldn't swap it for a made in Mexico. Some of the Squire guitars are great, I know I really enjoy some of the Squire guitars. Nick says under 2K gear is really moving right now in the States. Over that, it's a lot slower, unless special stuff. Yeah, that's exactly what I said at the top of the video. There's a glass ceiling, I find, and people are a little hesitant to overspend today because of the fact that there's a lot of uncertainties. Some people have lost their jobs or have been furloughed. They don't know what's going to happen with the economy. So unless it's something really special, then definitely I think a lot of people are kind of playing it safe right now. Hey Shane, we got Shane in the house as well from In the Blues. How's it going? Glad you can join me. Hope things are good in Down Under. basically, I think, one of the reasons why I brought up this guitar question is because I just learned that, and maybe you guys didn't know this, but Kurt Cobain's guitar, the Martin D18E that he's played on a couple of his tunes, also on the Unplugged, the MTV Unplugged sessions that they were doing. Well, that guitar just sold for $6 million. Could you imagine that? 6 million, man. That's basically now officially the most expensive guitar ever sold. It was previously the Black Strat from David Gilmour that sold for just under 4 million. I think it was 3,900,000 and change. So, I mean, that seems like a bargain right now, right? Considering the fact that $6 million for an acoustic guitar to the Martin. And so it's really amazing how much people will pay for that. But it is an iconic guitar. I get it. Like Kurt Cobain is an iconic player. He's no longer alive. And of course, people want to have that attachment to the gear. But I wouldn't expect it to sell for that much. I'm pretty amazed, actually. Usually you figure, okay, like the vintage guitars, the 59 original Les Paul sell for a lot of money, but 6 million, man. So the good news is that it actually went to an Australian fellow. So maybe Shane knows this guy. I'm just kidding, Shane. This is the owner. It's the owner of Rode Microphones. His name is Peter Freeman, and so he purchased the guitar in a sense because he wanted to give back to artists, and his idea was to buy the guitar, to use it to basically highlight the plight of the musicians, the artists, and he would put it on, I guess, tour, on rotation in some kind of a museum setup so people can actually enjoy the guitar. And I guess the proceeds of that, and eventually he said he would sell the guitar also eventually again, and I guess he figures he's going to make a profit with that, and the proceeds of that will go to this sort of awareness towards musicians, which I think is really great. It's very a noble thing for him to do, and not keep it for himself. He specifically said that he didn't buy it for himself. So the guitar was, in its original condition. He modded that guitar. He put in the Bartolini pickup in near the sound hole. So it wasn't an original Martin. It was modified. But the funny thing is that the guitar didn't even belong to his estate anymore, because apparently his daughter had the guitar and she gave it away or lost it in the divorce proceedings. So it wasn't hers anymore. It was actually given to her ex-husband. And I guess he probably figured it's time to sell. So he ended up, I guess, making quite a bit of money on that. And the funny thing is that there's also in the compartment, the little compartment, because it came with the case, the little compartment case, the buyer also got a half-used pack of Martin strings, three picks, guitar picks, and a little bag, sort of like a little decorative mini carry. It's like a stash bag, I guess. Whatever was put in there, we'll never know. But and so it's funny, that you spend all that money and you get like half a pack of Martin strings and a couple of used picks. But I mean, it's interesting how much people will spend on this kind of stuff. So that led me to just talking about guitars and basically how people will spend a lot of money on guitars and expensive guitars, and at the end maybe not appreciate them as much, and flipping them and using the money to put towards other instruments is always a great thing. I think it's better to have guitars that you enjoy playing than just having expensive guitars that you keep in a closet, right? Or keep them under your bed or wherever. So Cool Tunes Made Easy says that he got good money for his used guitars. At the time, I would say that it would be harder to get top dollar for used, cheaper gear during these bad times. Yeah, of course. Well, on the other hand, I'm not sure about that, actually. My opinion on that is that people are more willing to buy less expensive guitars in times like this because it's not a big hit to their bank account or their wallet. So I think it's probably easier to sell the cheaper ones. I don't know if you're going to get top dollar for anything right now, but I think people are still buying gear. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of people out there that are like definitely looking for deals. And right now, the fact that people are hard on cash would mean that there might be people getting rid of some stuff, you know, stuff that they wouldn't necessarily consider selling, and maybe right now because they need cash. So if you have the money, it might be a good time for you to pick up some gear and take advantage of that. Now, Paul says that he prefers unusual guitars like Lace, a Cybercaster. I updated the pickups or the bridge or tuners, anything that inhibits a totally pro sound. I do not buy dumbed down Squire Fender wannabes or clone body shapes. In my case, I'm not really one for like eclectic guitars. Like I'm not gonna buy a guitar just because it looks weird or has like sparkles on it or like weird shapes. I really like a guitar that plays nicely and feels great and makes it easier for me to play. So I'm not just gonna buy something on a whim per se. And it's funny because we're talking about Father's Day early on, and I guess there's no fathers in the house. Oh well, Jack's a dad. Jack says he's a dad. 3. Well, God bless you, Jack. I'm in the same predicament. I got 3 too. So I guess Jack's the only dad in the house here today. I'm not really sure. If you guys are dads, write dad underneath your comment here. I just want to see how many of you are actually dads. So going back to the Father's Day thing, I didn't really buy anything for Father's Day per se. I did buy my amp recently, and that was recent enough. I guess it covers Father's Day as well. But I'm not a big like spender, and I don't feel like I need to buy stuff on Father's Day per se. And my family doesn't really do the Father's Day gift thing. I mean, I asked yesterday I asked that they help me clean out the garage for Father's Day. That's my Father's Day request. So let's see if they're actually gonna do that. I'm not sure. But my real Father's Day gift today is actually I'm finally getting to jam again with my buddies today after like almost 4 months of not seeing these guys and not playing with them. So I'm gonna be super rusty, to be honest with you. I haven't really, practiced the stuff that we normally play in a long time. And I tend to forget. I don't know if it's just the age thing or maybe the hard drive is slowly getting full. The new stuff pushes out the old stuff. Sometimes I go back to the songs and I'm like, man, I forgot how that solo goes, or it's not as smooth as I remember it being. So it's going to be a challenge for this evening, but I'm looking forward to it because it's been such a long time. And my question to you guys actually is, for those of you who actually play in bands regularly, do you have like a routine that you do when you're starting to like tonight's gonna be the jam. So what I normally do, I have a routine. So what I usually do is when it comes to the jam day in the morning or even the day before, I'll take out the guitar. I'll try and figure out what I want to bring to the session. And it's funny because sometimes I'll want to try out a new guitar or a new amp or new pedals, and then suddenly I'll go back to my comfort zone and I'll end up taking the guitar that I just feel is the most comfortable to play. Like for example, yesterday I was considering taking the gold top Harley Benton because I didn't play it live yet, and I felt, let me take that guitar out. It has P90s in it. It would be a cool thing to try in a live venue. But then again, after playing a little bit, I actually decided, no, I'm going to take my tried and true Telecaster. And for me, it's a comfort zone type of thing. You know what I mean? It's like it's that guy there. the white, well, cream colored Telecaster with the rosewood neck. That is my go-to guitar because it just sounds so great. It cuts through the mix so nicely, and it's not heavy. I always feel that when I take my Les Paul style guitars, they're always heavy, and we jam for about 3 hours straight. And after a while, for those of you who actually jam regularly, you'll know that it takes a toll on your back. Like after a while, my back starts to hurt, and so I prefer to take like lighter guitars with me. So that's kind of my routine. I'll take this stuff out. I'll figure out what I want to bring to the session. I'll start practicing some of the songs. In some cases, if I really don't know the song that well, I'll print out the chords so I can at least take it with me and sort of improvise over them. And just think about what I want to bring in terms of pedals. Now, for today's jam, I don't normally bring an amplifier per se because where we jam, the rehearsal studio actually has amps and cabs and stuff there. So I usually don't bother because I like to travel light. I grab my guitar, I grab my pedals, and I basically head out with that. But today, because I recently picked up the Blackstar amp, I wanted to bring the amp with me and try it out in a live situation and really put it through the ringer before I actually do my final review video on that amplifier. I've been playing it behind the scenes. For those of you who have been following my channel, you probably already know that. And I promised a review, like a full review on it. So far, I'm really loving it. It's a great amplifier, but I really want to try it in a live situation, and tonight is the night. So I'm a little hesitant to bring it because I don't have a cover for it yet. It doesn't come with one. And I want to get a good quality padded cover so that when I do take it with me, I don't bang it around. I would hate to, like, have the Tolex rip on me. But I'm going to try and be super careful, bring it with me, and try it out and see how great it sounds. In here in the studio, it sounds fantastic. The more I play it, the more I understand how to balance the sound with it. And one thing that I did notice, and I noticed this about the actual most of the gear when it comes to amps specifically, is that they don't necessarily play the same way with pedals. So with that particular amp, I noticed that I had to change a few things on my pedal board. So I I swapped out the pedals. I have my pedal board here. I was actually doing it before the show. This is my bag. So I'll show you what's in there right now, what's on the board, for those of you that are interested. Let me see if I can take this out. Let me show you here. I'm dropping stuff. Oh man, okay. So I have the pedals on this Nooks pedal board. You can see it here. So the pedals I have here, there's not that many. I mean, well, not that many. I'm lying to you. They're actually, every slot is filled. I mean, my Decibel 11 power bank can power, I think, 8 pedals. And how many we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so we're pretty much full. So what do I have here? So top is basically the power cable goes in here. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I'm blocking the microphone. So the cable goes in here, tuner, then goes into my Rook. This is the Rook overdrive. I have the NUX JTC looper. Then I have a cheap copy of an MXR EQ. That's this guy here. And that's just for tone shaping. I have my EP booster, which is one of those always on pedal type of deals. And then the bottom row are what goes into the effects loop, and that's just a reverb. TC Electronics Hall of Fame. It's this guy over here. Whoa. Hall of Fame is this guy here. Then I have a Corona TC Electronic Chorus, which I rarely use, to be honest. And then the little mini pedal here is a pedal that I actually bought very inexpensively, and I did a review. Did I do a review on this? Maybe not. The Donner Wave delay. And I used to use the MXR carbon copy, but I actually like this one better, and it's way cheaper and it's smaller. So, that's basically my board. So the things that I've changed is actually this guy. Well, this guy over here, the Rook. Um, I felt that with the pedal that I normally play with for drive, it didn't sound beefy enough with the amplifier. The way I like to set up things when I play live is I usually take the amp and I go to the clean channel and I try and get a good sound with the clean channel. On the Blackstar, it's extremely easy because the clean channel is just volume and tone. There's no other tone shaping option, but it sounds great as it is. And so I get a good clean sound, and then I use the drive pedal to mimic the drive that I hear on the dirty channel. So I try and get the same type of beefy sounding drive at a, let's say, not as saturated. And then I use the amplifier drive channel to go over the top with just a little bit more. And so the particular amp that I'm going to be playing with tonight, which is the JJ N20R, has a really great dirty sound. Clean is good too. So I felt that some of my other pedals sounded a little fizzy and they didn't sound like an amp being driven. And so this Rook pedal is really good. It sounds really fat and it gives you a lot of like fullness. And that's what I wanted. So that's going to give me the sound that I need for tonight. And hopefully it's going to do really well in a live environment. And I also want to take the opportunity to crank it and hear what it sounds like really loud, because it shines, I think, once it's really loud. It really gets to that breakup nice and easy, and there's a lot of harmonic overtones. You can get like feedback from the guitar holding a note really easy with this particular amp. And I want to break in the speakers most of all. You have to like really crank them and play them loud. So I want to get the speakers broken in because I want to really hear the broken in sound. So that's the plan for tonight. We'll see how that turns out. I'll let you guys know. Now, what else do we? The other thing when I do a live session, when I play with my friends, is that I try and get limbered up before I get to the event. Sometimes, however, you end up practicing so much before, the day before or the day of, that by the time the jam session comes along, you're kind of tired already. You're kind of spent. So it's good to keep things fresh and just like not overdo it, in my opinion. And get limbered up, but not necessarily overdo it. What do you guys do? Are you guys playing regularly? Any of you guys playing in a band? I'm curious to hear what you guys are doing in terms of the routine to get set up. Let me get back to some of the questions. Paul says, C19 has stuff I need locked in a warehouse between the seller and me all over the world. Things at the airport in China or Russia, even Germany, chronic delays everywhere. I've noticed that too, even with my like stupid little orders that I've placed. It just seems to take forever to get stuff. And you gotta be patient, man. You have to be super patient when you're ordering stuff. I contacted a few people that I wanted to possibly buy guitars from, and they basically just said wait because shipping is super slow right now. Cool Tunes Made Easy's asking me if I'm selling my new Black Star yet. Not yet. For 5 cheap guitars, I don't think I'd be able to get 5 cheap guitars out of my Black Star. And he also is asking, what pickups have you swapped in your PRS? The PRS, I put in a set of Sanford magnetic, um, I think they're called V68s. They're low wind humbuckers, and low output pickups to me just sound better because they just sound a little bit more open, and you get a lot more of the nuances of the guitar, and really great pickups in my opinion. Check them out. Sanford Magnetics is the company. The winder, really great guy. Tell him I sent you if you're interested in getting some stuff from him. He's in Canada, so if you're buying from the States, you could take advantage of the lower dollar value and save yourself some money as well. So Jamel. Jamel says, I'm not a fan of getting rid of guitars. First of all, welcome to the show. I don't think I've seen you around before. Maybe you've been lurking in the back and not necessarily commenting. So he's not a big fan of getting rid of guitars. Whatever I own, it was something I fell in love with. Only 2 guitars I've owned was sold, not by choice. I figure I'm about 2 or 3 guitars away from done. So 2 or 3 guitars away from done, that means your collection is what? 20 guitars? 10 guitars? 6 guitars? What is it? Curious. If you can answer. I thought the market for guitars and gear would be really slow right now as you can't gig. Well, that's not true. I mean, I'm gigging. It's going to be tonight. You know, the situation here is funny because people are still saying you have to be careful. And I agree. I think people are starting to get a little bit too lax with this whole COVID thing. All of a sudden, they think summer's here, the heat is here, it's like party time. And all of a sudden, we're not doing isolation anymore. That's forgotten. So that's the time to be super careful. And I'm very hesitant. I was very hesitant about playing tonight, but I'm going to be super vigilant. I'm going to have my mask, not while I'm playing, but while I travel and go back and forth. And I'm, within closer distances of certain people. Uh, we'll wash the hands, and when we jam, we jam in a relatively big room. There's way more than 6 feet apart from each other. So I'm not that concerned. Every one of us has been careful, but I mean the risk is there. You have to be careful, and you don't want to be just loosey goosey going back to status quo. I see a lot of people just forgetting about all this stuff, and that's where the real danger lies. So you can do it, but you got to be super careful. Wash the hands. Try not to touch your face so much. Stay further away from everyone. The typical things that everyone is told to do. So, Mr. Wonderful, welcome, welcome. There's too many rich guys that have so much money, they'll spend that much money on anything. I bet he didn't spend that much on his wife. I think we're going back to the Kurt Cobain guitar comment that I made earlier. And that's correct, George. 6 million, and that's the highest ever paid for an instrument so far. I'm wondering how much Jimmy Page's Les Paul is gonna sell for eventually when Jimmy kicks the bucket. It's gonna be a sad day when that happens. That's gonna break my heart. Maybe I won't even be around when it happens. Who knows? Maybe he'll outlast me. But that guitar is also iconic, and I'm thinking that's gonna probably fetch some serious dough as well, if it ever gets sold. That's one guitar I'd love to own. Jamel says the main reason I want this guitar is to honor my older sister who passed away this past January. She was born in 1970. I'm sorry to hear that, Jamel. It's never easy to lose a loved one. Never mind a sister. Sorry, really sorry to hear that. Alan says he's sorry, he's late. The internet has been acting up. Greetings from Chester. No apology required, Alan. I'm glad you could make it. Like I always say, better late than never. We're always here. You can catch up on the other discussions just by going back once the recorded video is uploaded later today. That's a nice gift, Jack. He says he's been working at a church hanging sheetrock, and they just gave me all the PA equipment and everything out of it because they're totally redoing it. I got some nice speaker. That's cool. It's always good to recycle the stuff, right? Instead of making it end up in the garbage. Bud's a dad, so happy Father's Day, Bud. Thanks for joining us today as well. Fox Guitars Rock is a dad times 2. Awesome, awesome. Rich is also a dad with 2 Rugrats. My kids are not Rugrats anymore. They're actually all teenagers, so bigger kids, bigger problems, but it's all relative, I guess. Christian is a dad as well, times 3. Nice to see that. Bruce is also a dad. So happy Father's Day to you too, Bruce. So George wants to know how old I am. I'm actually 50. I turned 50 in October. Libra here. So no big, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. Fat Philosopher says, I just knew Tony was going to say he took the Telecaster to a jam. Why do you have ESPN? How do you know what I'm gonna say even before I say it? Oh man, Telecasters rock. They absolutely do. The main question I have is which one do I bring? But I always tend to go for the Telecaster. They're just so versatile. Can't go wrong with a Tele. I agree. Absolutely agree. So Nick had to take off and go to Home Depot, probably buying some spray pan cans to spray another guitar or something like that. If I know him, I'm glad he could tune in. So Cool Tune says I developed buzzing in my left ear at high volumes. Also, you mentioned it in one of your videos. You too, I ordered custom earplugs, 26 dB. Hope that helps me. Any advice? This is news to me. Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that because it really sucks to have hearing issues when you're a musician. Definitely, the plugs will help you. Um, Depending on what type of plugs you purchased, like a lot of the cheaper plugs that you can buy like at a music store, like under 20 bucks, are good, but they'll protect your hearing, but they're not actually going to help very much in the sense that it's not going to be easy to hear with them in. So it blocks the sound, but you want hearing protection that will attenuate the high frequencies but still allow you to hear what's going on. So the thing that I found is that it's the most difficult thing is to actually still be able to hear what's being played. And a lot of people think like, you guys play so loud, why is it so hard to hear? Actually, it's more difficult to hear yourself when you play loud in a band because you have to hear yourself through the mix, and sometimes you're just buried in the mix so much that you can't really hear yourself. And when you put in the headphones, the earphones to protect your hearing, it's even harder to hear. So my advice would be to spend a little bit more, go to an audiologist, make an appointment, they'll check out your hearing, and then they'll make custom molded hearing protection. It'll probably cost you about $200 to $250. But let me tell you, it's better to spend $250 and protect your hearing than to have to live with buzzing, because it really, really becomes annoying. And the longer you go without playing in a loud environment, the more chances you have of that buzzing going away. But at a certain point, it doesn't go away anymore. So you really want to avoid being overly exposed to loud music if you're starting to hear buzzing in your ear. I don't know if that makes sense to you. The funny thing is that I don't name my guitars. So a lot of people do. I think a lot of people, especially guitarists that actually play live, they tend to name their guitars because it does make it a lot easier for the tech to know which guitar you're talking about if you name them, instead of having to say, oh, the Sunburst 52 reissue Strat, or the blah 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 Telecaster. It's easier just to say, bring me Lucille, and they know exactly which one it is. I haven't done it yet. I don't really feel the need to have to do that. I mean, I use my guitars. Nobody really cares whether or not I name my guitars or not. So for me, it's like, I don't need to do that. But I know a lot of people do that. So Bruce says that he's actually rewatched some of my Ampero videos this week and has gas. Sorry about that, Bruce. That's the dangers of watching videos. So he snatched up a new open box one on eBay for about $340. Came yesterday, haven't even opened it yet. Happy Father's Day to me. So I'm assuming you got the full blown one as opposed to the Ampero one, the smaller one. Uh, the Ampero is a great unit, man. I have to say, like, it's pretty flexible. I think you're going to enjoy it, honestly. I think that if you're playing at home and you want to have some great sounds at your disposal, definitely a great unit to have. Not overly expensive, less expensive than a budget amplifier, something small that just gives you one sound. So you can actually have a built-in looper, all of the effects in there as well, a tuner, a volume effects wah pedal that you can configure. And it's a great recording device because you can actually just plug it in via USB and use it as a recording device and go right into your software. So I think it's a great buy. I'm still happy with mine. I love it. Haven't felt like selling it yet, so I think you're gonna like it. Alan, if you've never owned a Telecaster, honestly, try it, man. Um, I don't know if you're a Strat guy or more of a Les Paul guy, but the Telecaster's like right in between. It's got a lot of really great features. You can cut through the mix, you can make it sound beefy, you can make it twang, you can make it sound spanky. Um, I was never a big Telecaster fan till I got older because I didn't like the look of it. I was basing my opinion on the look, and I thought, like, I don't want to have a country guitar, because to me Telecasters were associated as being country guitars. And silly me, when I bought one, it blew my socks off, and I love it, and I love playing it now, and it's like one of my main go-to guitars. Try it out. You might be converted. Hall of Fame 2. Yep. The Hall of Fame is a great reverb pedal, I feel. It has a lot of functionality, a lot of great tones in there, and what I really like about it is it has the ability to load the sounds that you could download from the TC Electronics website. So if you want a specific sounding type of reverb, you can just load them up. You have three blocks, three patches on the pedal that you can actually load your custom reverb sounds. So I really like that. Yeah, I do have Corona. My Corona from TC Electronics. To be honest with you, I don't really use that chorus pedal much. I'm not a big chorus fan. There's a couple of like ballads that we play that are slower ballads, and it's nicer to have like a little bit of chorus on the guitar. So that's the main reason why I use that. But beyond that, I don't really need a chorus pedal. Bruce says that his 1996 50th anniversary Hammer Standard Telecaster American might be my favorite, even above my Core PRS and my 64 Strat. I'm telling you, man, Telecasters, they're really underrated for a lot of people. You got to try one. George says apparently speaker break-in is a myth. I don't know, man. I don't agree with that. I've tried speakers once they're brand new, and they definitely don't sound the same as once they're broken in. They definitely the highs are tamed. A lot of speakers that I've tried that were just too shrill became more mellow. Definitely, I think they change. As far as how long it takes for that to happen, that's a different story. But I don't agree with that comment. URM did a video on it like a month ago. I was surprised by the findings. I'll have to track down that video and see. But in my own personal experience, I definitely can hear a difference. So Richard is asking me Telecaster with singles or humbuckers. I actually have both. I prefer, like, if you really want a real Telecaster sound, it would be singles. I have Telecasters, or I have and have had other Telecasters with humbuckers. For me, the humbuckers are overkill on a Telecaster. I don't feel that I prefer singles. I've had Telecasters with humbuckers just to kind of get something different, but I do prefer singles on a Telecaster. That's just my personal preference. Hey Gussie, how you doing? Nice to see you today. So we have a member here that plays in a Nirvana cover band. That's awesome. What do you are you the only guitarist, or do you play with two guitarists? Telecasters need singles. I agree. And I also agree with Rich. You kind of need one of each just to like fill up the gaps a little bit more. Usually, Jack says it usually takes me 2 or 3 days to decide what guitars I'm going to take. But yes, I play in a band and we're not playing no, no, nowhere right now, I guess he meant to say. Um, yeah, I do the same. You know, I sleep on it for a couple of days and I think about it and I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to take this guitar. Well, I would really like to try that guitar because I put in new pickups and I want to try them in a live situation. And then at the last minute, I tend to go back to my tried and true guitar that I like the most. I do that often. It drives me a little bit crazy, but that's me. Quicksilver says that shipping within the EU should be fine. They mostly ship by ground anyway. Only the UK and mainline Europe is taking hits with shipping. I sold a set of Strat pickups. Buyer didn't get them for a month. Yeah, you know what? Even here, like in Canada, things are super slow. Like, normally I would get an order really, really quickly. Uh, you know, 7 days, 10 days max, and it's become weeks now. So I'm not really surprised. Simon wants to know if there's extra customs shipping costs from Canada to Europe. So if you're shipping from Canada to Europe, there probably are going to be some duties that are going to apply. It depends on where the item that you're shipping was made. Um, and it's very murky in terms of what the information really is. I've tried numerous times to contact customs to figure out, like, okay, how do they calculate this, like, customs amount that they're charging, and it's so vague that it's almost impossible to figure out. The most I can tell you is that I was told that, for example, if I'm bringing in a guitar from the US, if the guitar was made elsewhere, China or whatever that I'm bringing in, there will be taxes that will apply. If the guitar was made in the States, depending on the um, the amount of the guitar assembly that was actually made in the States, it could qualify for made in the US, in which case it could fall under some free trade agreement, which means you wouldn't necessarily pay additional duties, but it depends on the percentage, and it's really complicated. So just, I would say, like, think about, like, saving some extra dough if you're ordering anything from anywhere else, just to cover any surprises. Simon wants to know if we have many infected in Canada, and I guess you're talking about COVID. In all of Canada, I think we're over 100,000. And the scary part is that half of that, over 50,000, 53, 54,000 right now, is right here in my province of Quebec. So we're really lucky. Yay! We don't listen. Yay! We want to be unique here, distinct. Yay! So yeah, we didn't do the isolation thing very well. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that ended up getting the virus here were in old folks' homes. The majority of the people that died were in old folks' homes, and I guess it just spread like wildfire when it got in these type of establishments. And unfortunately, we weren't very prepared for that. So I'm being sarcastic, by the way, when I say yay, right? I'm not happy about that at all. Hey, Nico, how are you? Nice to see you here. I think you're new as well. Welcome aboard. I'm glad you can join us. So I've been working on some new videos. I haven't had the opportunity to upload them yet, but I finally decided to install the Mad Hatter system. This is the Terminator system. They call the DVDT T 3T. Say that 5 times fast. DVDT 3T. It's the Terminator system, and this is basically a solderless system that you can install in your guitar and replace the standard electronics. So I decided, after lots of consideration, to install that into the Harley Benton Gold Top, because I felt that it would be a good guitar for me to upgrade the electronics on. The electronics on that guitar were just middle of the road. The overall guitar is really nice, and I figured that would be a great guitar to put the system in, because I might end up trying different pickups in that guitar, who knows, but having the Mad Hatter system in there would allow me to remove the pickups without having to overheat the pots and the capacitors, which would ultimately destroy them over time. So that's the one that I'm gonna end up using, and I did the video on that as well, so it's sort of in the queue to be uploaded. So that's going to be uploaded in the next couple of days. What else did I do recently? I'm just trying to think back. So the Black Star amp demo is something that I'm going to be uploading pretty soon as well. If you guys are interested in hearing the amplifier as well, it sounds killer, by the way. So can't wait for you guys to hear that. The Ampero 1, been doing some videos on that as well. The cool thing about the Ampero 1, for any of you using it or considering it, which I didn't know actually, is that it is, you can actually power it with a 9 volt. So the power, well, you can actually power it up with a pedal board power supply without going into the wall. So it's small enough to put on my pedal board. I can actually put it on the bottom tier of my pedal board, and it'll replace a bunch of pedals, and I can basically just go into this. The only thing I got to figure out is the the effects return. So if I want to use my pedals with this, the difference between this guy, let me just show you something very quickly here. Just because I feel you guys might want to know this, because you might be considering it, okay? So this is the full-blown Ampero, and this is a little one. So you can see the difference in size. You can also see that the little one is missing some additional outputs. They might not be required, but some of you might need them. So here, for example, you can see they both have power. What this one is missing is it doesn't have the balanced left and right. So if you're going into a board, you don't have that with this. It doesn't have the ground lift switch, this guy. So if you're dealing with dirty power, you might have additional noise if you buy this one. It still has the aux in and the headphones, and it still has a left and right mono. Still has the USB, but it doesn't have the MIDI in. So if you're using the MIDI, that might be something that you might not want to deal with. And so the old one, you needed DC 18 volt 500 milliamp connector. The little one, you need a DC 9 volt 500 milliamp, so half the power. Okay, so that's good for people to know. So I haven't tried it hooking it up with my pedal board yet, but I would love to try that. The only thing, let me just put this down here. The only thing is that if you're using this type of setup, you typically wouldn't go into a cabinet unless you remove the cabinet emulations. I don't really like the way the Ampero sounds if I'm going through a guitar cabinet. I prefer going through my balanced flat FR speaker. So it's really, it's one or the other for me. It's not really, I don't really want to mix both. So we'll see. But I just thought I'd mention that for you guys, if you're considering it. Fat Philosopher says, don't talk about Jimmy Page dying. Sacrilege. I totally agree with you. I'm a big Jimmy Page fan, man. Where am I? See that this guy, or is it that guy there? That's a Jimmy Page picture. And every time I take my guitar and start playing, I look at that and I'm like, pray to the gods of rock, Jimmy Page. I feel like the market for cheap secondhand guitars is booming. I sold almost all of my very good Squiers in a heartbeat. Anyone else? You know what? Squiers are great. That's, I think, why they're selling so quick. Most people enjoy Squiers immensely, and they get snagged up very fast. It all depends what type. I mean, if they're classic vibes, that particular line was very popular. So I'm not surprised. I don't know if anybody else has had the same experience. Fat Philosopher says the Jimmy Page double neck will sell for more than his Les Paul. Do you think so? Like, I'm a big Jimmy Page fan. I wouldn't necessarily want to buy the double neck. I wouldn't want to buy the Telecaster either. But the Les Paul would be like, yeah, in a heartbeat. If I had the Jimmy Page Les Paul, I would just, I don't know what I would do with it. I mean, I would have to like, it would be like protected like the Mona Lisa, you know? You have the bulletproof glass in front of it with the security guard with the velvet little rope around it so you can't get close, and the laser like alarm system. So Christian says, I play rhythm guitar with some friends, grab my pedals, my lead sheets, and my guitar. So you like to travel light. I do too. I hate carrying stuff. I'm actually trying to convince one of my kids to come with me today to the jam session so that I have a roadie that can at least carry something. Otherwise, I got to make a couple of trips. Sometimes there, like, parking is not very convenient. You don't know if there's going to be parking nearby, and it's a real hassle to carry all this stuff. You can only carry a few things at a time. Strat 5150. Thank you for coming in today. Happy Father's Day if you're a dad. Let us know if you're a dad or not. So somebody needs some advice here. Here in the chat, someone are expert on Gibson. I think to buy a Gibson Invader of 1984 made in Nashville. So I guess Simon wants to know basically what we think of the Invader, 1984 Invader made in Nashville. I haven't played one of those guitars, so I can't really pipe in, but I'm fielding the question over to everyone that's watching right now. If anybody has one and has tried one, what your opinion is on that. Maybe we can give Simon some advice. 5150 says he's turning 50 in October. A fellow Libra. What day in October? What's your birthday? I'm a Libra too. Like I'm born in October, and I think Libras are great. We have an epidemic of Libras in my family. My dad's a Libra. My brother-in-law is a Libra. I'm a Libra. Two of my kids are Libras. So October is a really big month for us in terms of birthdays. They're like one after another. So we're constantly partying, eating cake in October, practically like every other day. Ah, Christian, you're good. Thank you for the compliment. You look great. I would have said 40. I wish I would feel 40. I feel like more like 60. You know, everything seems to hurt these days. I've been trying to exercise more, and I've been playing tennis regularly with my son, going on bike rides, doing the walking thing, trying to get like my 10 to 15,000 steps in a day. And yeah, everything hurts. My joints, like I get up and everything just, every single joint in my body hurts. So I think I'm gonna have to start taking some like supplements for that or something, because the wrist, especially when you're playing tennis, it takes a lot of impact, and it's like the wrist has been acting up as well. So it's okay. You got to deal with it. You hit 50, you start making the old man noises. When you start tying your shoelaces and stuff like that, like you just bend over and you're like, oh, you never used to do that before, and you hit 50, all of a sudden you're making those old man noises. So whatever, it is what it is. You got to take it in stride. So Strat 5150 wants to know what my number one Telecaster is. Okay, I'll tell you. So just so you know, I have how many Telecasters do I have? I have the Sunburst one. I have a red one. I have the white one. What else do I have? I think that's it. Oh no, I have another one. I have a blue one. So I have four. And if we don't count, I'm not counting the Harley Benton humbucker one, because it has humbuckers. It's not really a Telecaster, but it does have a Telecaster body, so that's five. The one that is my favorite, I'll get for you. I showed it last time, but I'll show it to you again. This guy right here. So this is my number one for Telecasters. Actually, sorry, 6 Telecasters. I also have a 52 reissue. This is my number one. This is actually a parts caster. So I put this together myself, and it's basically, it is an authentic Fender body, brand new, that I purchased. The neck is an aftermarket neck that I purchased specifically for the specs, the radius, and the type of frets that it has, because these are like medium-sized frets, not like vintage frets. I wanted the truss rod adjustment to be here, not here, like some of the vintage ones are. Those are a real pain. Bone nut that I installed and cut myself. Locking tuners that I opted to put in there because why not? I feel it gives the headstock a little bit more mass. And then, of course, the bridge. Bridge is pretty much, let me get this out of the way so you can see it. The bridge is pretty much a typical Telecaster 3 saddle bridge, but the bridge saddles are compensated. I don't know if you can see that there or not. And the other cool thing is that the actual bridge metal piece here has the edges cut off of it so that you can actually put your hand there and palm mute without any issues. And of course, the pickups are not standard Fender pickups. You know, mint green pickguard, 3-ply, and I love it. And I just love the rosewood on it. I'm a big fan of rosewood necks, and thing rocks. The actual neck profile is not bulky. It's actually a little bit more on the thin side, but it's not really like Squier thin. And it really just plays so nice. One thing I regret doing on this guitar is actually going with nitro, because the nitro stays sticky for a long time in the back of the neck. So eventually maybe I'll sand it down, but for the time being, great guitar. Love playing this guitar. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Jimmy Page Telecaster. You're talking about the Dragon, I guess? My nephew actually made one. He's very artistic, and he does like guitars as well. And he actually painted one for himself, took a body and painted it, and it looks identical to the Jimmy Page Telecaster. And I asked him if he'd do one for me. He said yes. So maybe eventually I'll send him a body, and when he has spare time, he can do one and send it back to me. But I don't know if he's gonna love doing it. You know, when you build something for yourself, you put the love and effort into it. When you're doing it for someone else, not so much. But I can probably do it myself. My daughter's pretty artistic. She's actually a great painter, and if I give her a drawing or a picture of it, and I outline the actual design on the guitar body, I'm sure she would be able to paint that for me, no problem. That could be a project in the future, but I'm not a big fan of that particular look. I prefer this. Oh, so you did, great. So Cool Tunes says that he did get his ears checked and had the mold taken. That's awesome. That's the best way of doing it. So they're probably the ones I use. I don't have them here, but they're this is the actual. See, these are the filters here that I can switch in mine. So I have different ones. Like there's different. There's 9, 15, or 25 that I can use to swap out, and the filters will attenuate the sound according to how much you want to put in there. So you have a little bit of flexibility. Paul says he's not a dad. I chose doing my own material and stuck with for life. I only got married a few years ago to a lovely young lady and a bass player vocalist. I'm 73 and still at it flat out. That's great. Well, that's the advantage of not having children. You get more time to spend with the wife and other things. Huh, this is interesting. So Alan says, sorry to hear that Andertons are not offering a warranty to overseas buyers. Well, that sucks. I guess they're having too many issues with things being damaged when they're being shipped over. If I didn't have a warranty on a shipment coming over, I probably wouldn't buy it. There's too much risk, man. They're coming from far away, probably by boat or, some other method. These things get thrown around. I don't know. Simon says he doesn't want tremolo guitar, so he prefers I guess a Gibson Les Paul style guitar. He doesn't want to have a little tremolo. I rarely use tremolos anyway, so my opinion to you, Simon, is try out a Telecaster, man. Telecasters are awesome. Paul makes me laugh. He says he names his guitar. There's the yellow one, the orange one. Yeah, I do that too. So Strat 5150 says, I want a Telecaster, but I don't want a brick, and I want the tummy cut and the forearm contour. Okay, hold on. Don't move. I'll be right back. Play some elevator music while I'm gone. I just want to show you guys something. So talk amongst yourselves for a second. 1 minute. Here you go. So, remember I told you I had another one? Well, this is it. So, you have armrest, tummy tuck. It doesn't weigh like a brick. Brass saddles compensated. Really nice neck. Rosewood fretboard. Medium frets on this guitar. Locking tuners. This guitar is also a parts caster. The funny thing is, this body came fully loaded. I bought it off eBay. Cost me $45. 45 bucks. Took all of the components, upgraded the hardware, electronics. Kept the bridge, changed the pickups. Killer guitar, matched with a killer neck, and cost me probably under 100 bucks to upgrade. The neck, obviously, I'm not counting the neck. So you have this is a great playing guitar. Look at the grain in this thing. Beautiful. Look at this. Check it out. Wonderful. This is, to me, like custom shop level stuff. So you shop around, man. You're gonna find some great deals, and put them together yourself. You're gonna see you can really get a lot more for your money. A lot more for your money. So let me catch up on the comments here. I think I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball here. Alan says, I'm a Strat guy. Can you recommend A Telecaster with a slim wide neck and warm sounding pickups. A slim wide neck. Um, the best thing to do really is to get your own neck. Find the profile that you like, order that neck, and put it together yourself, man. Pickups are super easy to upgrade. When you say warm sounding pickups, I mean, I think warm sounding pickups for Telecasters are kind of easy to find. Again, low output pickups are going to sound a little bit warmer. Sanford Magnetics makes some great ones as well. Check out their stuff. There's a lot of great stuff out there. It's not hard to get this stuff. Alan says, I think Thomann are better set up for international deliveries. To the UK, they use UPS, one of the few couriers that will insure guitars. It depends where they're coming from. I don't think all of their guitars actually come from the same place. And depending on the model that you're buying, they could probably just drop ship it to you. So some of the Chinese brands that they're selling might not come from the same place. So depending on how it's shipped, I'm not really sure how they're set up. The Nye says, I found your channel when you reviewed the CV Telecaster, the classic vibe. So I guess you're referring to the one where I compared the CV to the 52 reissue, and most people preferred the sound of the CV Telecaster. So George says the video he saw about speaker break-in is called Speaker Break-in, Myth or Reality. Better call Cole. It won't let me post a direct link to it. It's okay, I'll find it myself. I appreciate that. I'll definitely check that one out. I'm always curious to see these things. So more chit chat about shipping. Bruce says he's done about 10 eBay orders in the last 3 weeks, and everything came within 2 days to a week. Week from California to New York, but everything was domestic. Yeah, that's the difference. I think if it's domestic, it's not an issue. If it's international, it does become an issue really fast. Cool Tunes Made Easy says in Toronto, Ontario, we are now averaging 200 daily, just opening up now though. Yeah, that's the scary part, is the opening up. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Keeping my fingers crossed, man. I hope, like I'm looking at the curve, the stats, and we're well over the hump right now, and we've started to go back down again. So I feel that if with the opening up, if the numbers go back up again, we have enough warning hopefully to shut it down before it goes crazy again. But in certain places like in the US, I don't even think they're over the hump yet. The numbers are still going up. So that's pretty scary because we don't know what's going to happen with the economy. I mean, the economy, people can't live without working forever. So it's a really tough place to be right now. Simon says, I'm from Spain, but I'm in a province where we have 2,000 infected, but almost all of them were cured. Yeah, that's the good news, that most of these guys do eventually get better, right? So the death rate is like 1%, something like that. So it's not a death sentence if you get this thing, but definitely like if you bring it in and you have a family and then you have to self-quarantine, it's almost impossible to do. So it's better not to put yourself in that position to begin with. So Nico says that 2 weeks ago, he ordered the HB62 STCC Lake Placid. My next will be the HB TE52, a great Telecaster style guitar. I've seen those guitars. They do look very nicely built, and most people do appreciate them a lot. So I think you're going to like that one. I'd like to order another Harley Benton guitar too. I'm thinking of maybe ordering the junior single cut. I don't have a junior, so I think that would be cool with P90s or something in it. Joe says ground lift. That just sounds unsafe. It's not really. It's not really. There's no risk, Joe. It's just a way of cleaning up the sound if you have additional noise due to dirty power. That's all. Richard says the TE52 has a big neck and is heavy. Okay, so if heaviness is a light guitar, if a light guitar is one of the requirements, maybe you want to go with something else. I have heard that some Harley Benton guitars tend to be on the heavy side. The ones that I have are not that heavy. The Gold Top maybe a little bit more than the Fusions that I have, but not overly so. Simon says, guys, my last question matters important. I already have a big amp and good to play live. The question is, bought me pedals or bought a multi-effects? Okay, so I think Simon's question is, does he go with a multi-effects units or pedals? And I think he enjoys the sound of pedals even more. My opinion is both are great. It depends on what your scenario is. If you're playing live and you have a limited budget and you don't necessarily want to spend a lot of money on pedals, a multi-effects unit is a good way of doing it, because for a couple of $100 you have a lot more sounds at your disposal. But on the other hand, some people just prefer the sound of pedals because you can actually swap them as you go. To be honest with you guys, my pedals don't change all that much. Once you have a setup that you like, I might tweak by swapping a pedal here and there, but I mean overall it hasn't really changed all that much. So they're both good scenarios. If you're going with a multi-effects unit, I would tend to say go with an FR speaker with it instead of going through an amp. So if you already have an amplifier that you like playing through, then maybe in that particular case you might just stick with pedals. It really is up to you. I mean, you can do it both ways, but I really don't tend to play a multi-effects unit through an amp. I just don't like the sound of that. George says they must have added a charge pump to enable the use with a 9-volt battery. I don't know what they did, but they got it to work, and I think it's a great option to have. So I'm pretty happy with that. Bruce says the only thing really missing from the Ampero is effects loop and the ability to split stereo into 2 different outputs using different amps and cab simulations. Yeah, that would be a nice feature to have if you want to do a multi-cab type of setup. As far as the effects loop goes, yeah, I think they also could have made that a little bit easier. But I think there is a way of doing it. I just haven't tried it yet. So if I can get that to work, I'm going to probably demo that for you guys as well. Fat Philosopher says, yeah, back in high school, I had a Page poster on my bedroom door. I don't think I ever had, I wasn't really into big Zeppelin posters, or I didn't have the Zeppelin shirts or anything like that. But I do like Led Zeppelin a heck of a lot. My only tribute to Zeppelin is I have a little Zoso decal on the cover of my truss rod cover on my Tokai Les Paul. Simon has another question regarding the distortion pedals. Is there some distortion that sounds really good, or does that have to be done by the process chain of an amplifier channel? The distortion pedals, there's a lot of great sounding distortion pedals. If you're not familiar with the distortion pedal scenario, what I always advise people is that if you buy an amplifier that has a great clean sound, you will have no big problems getting distortion out of it by just putting a distortion pedal in front of the amplifier. But if you go out and buy a heavily overdriven or distorted amplifier, you can't really put another distortion pedal in front of it. You're kind of stuck with the sounds that are coming from the amplifier, and you have to, like, at that point, just tailor the sound by EQing it and trying to get the distortion that you like from it. So I highly recommend people go with a more clean amplifier, or maybe an amplifier that has two channels, a clean and a dirty. Then you can put the distortion pedal in front of the clean channel, kind of like what I'm doing with my Blackstar amplifier, same idea. And you have a lot more flexibility in terms of the distorted sounds that you can get from your amp. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Right next to the Farrah Fawcett poster. That's Joe says I guess he's elbowing Fat Philosopher a little bit. I love that Farrah Fawcett poster. And later that Farrah Fawcett poster was replaced with the Samantha Fox poster, I think. You guys remember that, I'm sure. M Hunter is asking if I've heard or played Barefaced Cabs from England. This is the first time I hear that brand name. I don't know, maybe they're not being distributed in the rest of the world. Is this, are they only being sold in England? Since I'm in Canada, I don't really have access to that kind of stuff, so I would have to look it up. Nico, we talked about that at earlier in the video. Yeah, I mentioned the fact that it was sold for a bucket load of money. So go back and watch the earlier portion of this video. It's amazing that you can get that kind of money for an acoustic guitar. Bruce says, no point owning a guitar if you're not going to play it on a regular basis. I agree. That's why a lot of times there's some stuff on the chopping block specifically because of that, right? Because you feel guilty owning a guitar and just keeping it in a case or in the closet. Bruce says he turned 50 in September 2002. Bud is 52. Philip says he was born in the 60s. I can't remember how old I am. Oh, man. You guys crack me up. So Simon says, everyone in the chat, you play better than me for sure because you've been playing for 20 plus years. That's not necessarily true, Simon. I mean, you know, I don't consider myself a fantastic player. I consider myself a hacker. I've seen players that I've only been playing for, like, you know, 5, 6 years, 7 years that could probably run me into the ground in terms of their playing skills compared to mine. George loves the mint green guard on the Telecaster. Yeah, me too. It just gives you enough contrast to make it look cool. Alan says that this is why I don't own a Telecaster. They just don't appeal to me. Most sound too twangy. The thing about Telecasters is that you can make them sound whichever way you want. I could make my Telecaster almost sound like a Les Paul. Depending on how I configure it and how I set up the sound. They're just so versatile. You can get twangy, but I don't play twangy. I don't play that kind of thing. I play classic rock mostly, and I would say the Telecaster is far from being twangy in my opinion, and it cuts through the mix so well that you don't have to worry about having to be, like, not being heard. It just fits in the mix perfectly. Um, I'm seriously considering building a Wormouth Telecaster to get what I want spec wise. Yeah, that's a perfect way of doing it. I think the Wormouth stuff is really well made, super expensive at the end of the day. I don't know if you're going to get your money back if you end up trying to sell it, but yeah, if you really want to get the specs on your guitar and keep it, that's a great way of doing it. I considered that a couple of times myself, but because I'm in Canada, the duties and exchange rate would just make it go through the roof, so it wasn't really worth it for me. You can also just buy like a guitar that has most of the parts that you want, like already loaded, and then just swap out what you don't like. Joe says, I need to trim my Telecaster bridge sides. I don't know if you could grind it down. I considered doing that, but I figured it would be best just to buy the actual thing already made because it would be a lot easier to get a good, a good finish on that. Bruce says, been playing over 50 years and every day I still learn something new. God bless you, YouTube. I agree. I agree. I do the same. Right now, there was a couple of songs on the set list for this evening that I don't know yet, and I have to learn them. And thank God for YouTube. It makes it a lot easier to get that mystery chord figured out. There's always someone willing to show you the chord. One of the songs on our set list for tonight is mm, Born to Be Wild. I don't really like that song. It was suggested by someone else. I'll learn it and I'll play it, but it's a boring song, I feel. Philip says 16 guitars and no Telecaster. Is there something wrong with me? Philip, we need to talk, Philip. Listen to me. Stay with me, Philip. We'll get you through this. We got to get you a Telecaster. If you have 16 guitars, I'm sure you have multiples of a few different ones. It's time to get a Telecaster. It's time. We'll help you, okay? Um, I had a 2011 made in Mexico Telecaster, but I couldn't gel with it. You know what? Telecasters are like every other type of guitar. You have to find the right one. They're not all the same. There are a couple in my collection that I'll play more than the others. And once you find the right one, it's a thing of beauty. Bruce says 18 guitars and not a single Gibson. See? It's possible. Well, guys, we've been talking for an hour and 44 minutes now. I think we're going to start wrapping it up. I'm sure you guys want to get your Father's Day activities started. And so I'm just going to answer a couple last questions here and then start wrapping it up. Paul says the white Telecaster is a total knockout killer. The finish is fine. There are old Fenders that cost a king's ransom. Lacquer finishes do very, very little. Wood makes a big difference. Yeah. I mean, I like everything about that particular Telecaster. I wouldn't change a thing on it. And Bruce says, my lack of Gibson is not for lack of funds. I just think there are better alternatives. Yeah, a lot of people do. You can get a lot for that kind of dough. So it really, it's smart to shop around. Joe says, no pain, no gain when playing a Telecaster. I don't know about pain. I mean, you associate playing with a Telecaster with pain. I don't think that's true. It's a great tool. Yeah, Telecaster is a great tool. It's durable. It's not gonna break on you. It's simple. It's effective. It's just a great tool. Quicksilver likes my shorts. Thanks, man. These are my I'm gonna take it easy today shorts. And you also get to see my chicken legs. You didn't see my co-host before? Yeah, she's always here and bored to death, snoring underneath the desk here. What shade of blue is that? I don't know. You tell me. I don't know what this is. It changes in the light. It's more like a kind of turquoise. I don't know. I don't know what kind of color this is. I'm a little colorblind, guys, so you help me out. What neck is that? This is I believe it's either an all parts neck. I forget now because I had a couple of them, or a WD neck on this guy. Take it easy, Fat Philosopher. Have a good evening. Enjoy your rest. This is my custom shop. My custom shop. I put a custom shop neck plate on it because it's a custom shop because I built it. I don't like the look of Strat necks on Telecaster bodies. It just feels weird for me. A Strat is a Strat, a Telecaster is a Telecaster. I like to keep them separate. They say they're all inspected and shipped it from Thomann. I think they are because they come with the Thomann box, but I'm not sure what inspected means. If it might just mean they're put in the box. I'm not really sure. Alan says, thanks. Tony is suggesting that I go the self-build custom route. If you're capable of doing it, you'll be more happy with it. It'll be exactly the way you want it to be, and it won't cost you a custom shop price to do. I have to make a discussion group for all of us to show the guitars. I was considering doing that with whatever software would allow us to do that, but I think it would become a big mess for all of us to be talking at the same time. But I'd love to do something like that. I'm going to see if I can actually do that at one point, but it wouldn't be posted on YouTube, so I don't know how we would do that. M Hunter is saying order a FGN Les Paul. They are fantastic. Can you send us the link to that? We'll definitely take a look at it. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to set up a Zoom thing, but we would have to do it some other way because I wouldn't be able to announce it on YouTube. So how do we get the people on? I would have to do it some other way. You got to think about that. Titan's in the house. I love that name. Titan Uranus. Love it. Just love it. And he's a dad too. So happy Father's Day to you. Strat 5150 is noodling on his Squire Standard and Ampero Mesa Boogie patch. So it must sound nice. The cool thing with the Ampero is you can plug it right into your computer. So if you have an account, say on iTunes or whatever you're using to stream your music, you can stream your music right into the Ampero and then listen to the sound of the song that you're trying to emulate, and then just tweak until you get it to sound identical. What I do is I try and get some sounds where it's an isolated guitar track. So for example, for the EVH sounds or the Jimmy Page sounds, you can go on YouTube and get like isolated guitar tracks where you hear only the guitar on a specific song, and you can really hear the guitar clearly and dial in the sound almost identical to it. That's how I make my patches. Everybody's telling me it's a different blue. And Strat 5150 says we're trying to forget the chicken legs. Hey man, I've seen pictures of other musicians wearing like bathing suits. They don't look any better. I've seen Frank Zappa in a bathing suit, and let me tell you, my legs are much better than his. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna wrap it up for today. I've gone almost 2 hours now. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I want to say happy Father's Day to everyone again, and I will definitely be looking forward to the next one. Maybe we'll do one in the middle of the week. We'll see what happens with that. Again, if you want to support the channel, invite your friends, get them to subscribe. If you want to pick up swag, that always helps me out. But at the very least, hit the little bell icon so at least you'll be able to know when I post new videos, and comment, and just keep updated with all the stuff that's coming in on the channel as well. So that's it for now, guys. Peace. Stay safe. Take it easy. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Go hug your dad, or at least give him a call, and be online next Sunday. Next Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. That's when we normally do our shows. All right, guys? That's it. If you appreciate this comment, the comments that we had, and everybody that's online and what we're doing here live, please give me a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot as well. That's it for now, guys. Enjoy your Father's Day. Talk to you soon.